It's the summer of 1518. The cobbled streets of Strasbourg, a thriving city of the Holy Roman Empire, are filled with the heat of July, the scent of horses and sweat, and the echoes of street vendors shouting over each other. Life here is predictable, built on the rhythms of market days and church bells. But one morning, something disrupts that rhythm in the most bizarre way imaginable. A woman named Frau Trophäa steps into the street. She isn't shopping or selling. She's dancing, alone, without music, with no expression of joy, no partner, no celebration, just a relentless, involuntary movement. Her feet pound the stones as neighbors gather around, murmuring in confusion. Hours pass and she keeps moving. No one can explain it. She doesn't respond to pleas to stop, nor to prayers or food. By the next day, her feet are bleeding, but she's still dancing. And that's when others start to join her. 1, then 5, then dozens, all gripped by some invisible force, as if pulled by a ghostly melody only they can hear. It's not a performance, it's a compulsion. Soon the city square begins to fill not with the music of lutes or laughter, but with the sounds of exhausted bodies collapsing, moaning, getting back up and continuing to dance. People start to panic. Is it a curse, a punishment from God, a disease of the soul? Priests blame sin. Doctors blame hot blood. No one agrees. But what everyone does know is this: something is deeply wrong in Strasbourg, and the plague, whatever it is, has begun. And it won't stop with just one woman. This was not just hysteria. This was something that left bodies broken, minds confused, and entire communities fearing for their lives. And it was just the beginning. Within days of the first solitary dancer, the narrow alleys of Strasbourg echoed with the rhythmic shuffle of dozens, then hundreds of feet. By mid-July, over 100 people were reportedly caught in the same relentless trance, convulsing, sweating, and collapsing, only to rise again. City officials were paralyzed. What started as an isolated curiosity spiraled into a full-blown public health nightmare. Doctors, rooted in humoral theory, believed the cause was overheated blood and recommended more dancing as treatment. Yes, more dancing. A massive stage was erected in the city center, and musicians were hired to play day and night, fueling what became an eerie, open-air dance-a-thon of despair. Meanwhile, clergy offered another explanation: divine punishment. The plague, they claimed, was God's wrath upon a sinful people. Some religious leaders called for processions and prayers, while others blamed heresy and the devil himself. Superstition clashed with science, neither of which could stop the madness. Eyewitnesses wrote of dancers with vacant eyes and trembling limbs, flinging themselves against walls, shrieking in tongues, foaming at the mouth. Deaths from exhaustion, heart attacks, and strokes became common. But the dancing didn't stop. Strasbourg was no longer a city. It was a stage for a haunting performance no one could explain. Centuries later, the dancing plague of 1518 still baffles historians and scientists alike. One of the earliest and most popular theories is ergotism, poisoning from rye bread contaminated with Claviceps purpurea, a hallucinogenic fungus. This theory paints a picture straight out of a medieval horror film: entire communities unknowingly tripping on natural LSD, convulsing in synchronized madness. But it doesn't fully add up. Ergot poisoning causes spasms and hallucinations, yes, but rarely leads to days of coordinated dancing. Plus, it tends to confine sufferers to their homes, not drive them into public squares to join impromptu dance marathons. Others have proposed mass psychogenic illness, where intense psychological stress manifests physically. In 1518, Strasbourg was dealing with famine, disease, and a brutal political climate. The people were poor, overworked, and deeply religious. Under such pressure, a single woman's strange behavior could trigger a subconscious chain reaction, a psychological contagion that spread through fear, trauma, and shared belief. Still, others suggest spiritual possession, apocalyptic fear, or even cult activity. Modern psychiatry leans toward the explanation of mass hysteria, drawing parallels to other collective delusions in history, like the Salem witch trials or medieval flagellant movements. But the truth remains elusive. Was it drugs, disease, despair, or something more metaphysical, a collective cry from souls so burdened they could only scream through motion? The deeper we look, the more the mystery dances just out of reach. Though the streets of Strasbourg have long since fallen silent, the echo of the dancing plague still reverberates through history, art, and culture. Writers, filmmakers, and artists continue to draw from the surreal chaos of 1518, portraying it as a metaphor for everything from societal breakdown to the fragile border between order and madness. The event has appeared in everything from indie songs to video games, graphic novels to avant-garde theater, always wrapped in that eerie contradiction. Grotesque suffering expressed through ecstatic movement. In a way, the dancing plague became a cultural archetype, a symbol of what happens when collective pressure finds no outlet. And while mass dancing epidemics might sound like ancient myths, echoes of this strange phenomenon still surface today. Consider modern events like flash mobs, viral dance trends, or even the overwhelming urge people feel to dance under the influence of stress, celebration, or grief. The line between a joyful ritual and a coping mechanism is thinner than we like to admit. Even psychologists today point out how somatic responses to trauma can resemble collective choreography, the body acting out what the mind can't process. In fact, some scholars argue that the 1518 plague should be viewed less as a freak event and more as a mirror to our own psychological landscapes. Because whether it's a medieval mob or a modern TikTok challenge, humanity has always danced. Sometimes with joy, sometimes in sorrow, and sometimes, inexplicably, together. The Strasbourg dancers may have vanished, but their strange, desperate rhythm still pulses beneath the surface of our world. Centuries have passed since the last dancer collapsed in the sweltering streets of Strasbourg, yet the mystery remains as visceral as ever. Was it mass psychosis, a misunderstood disease, or something else entirely? A ritual, a rebellion, a desperate release? We'll likely never know for certain, but the questions the dancing plague leaves behind are often more important than the answers. Why do people break in unison? What hidden strings pull our bodies to move, not for joy, but for survival? In a world where we think we've conquered the unknown with data, the tale of 1518 stands as a stubborn reminder. Some truths rive outside the boundaries of logic. Even today, we witness waves of collective behavior, from stock market frenzies to digital outrage, and we call them viral. But centuries ago, that virality was literal, physical, embodied in motion and exhaustion. The line between culture and contagion blurs, and perhaps it always has. Maybe the people of Strasbourg weren't cursed or mad. Maybe they were simply human, overwhelmed by a world too strange to bear in silence. In the end, the plague may not have been in the body, but in the very rhythm of society itself, a rhythm that, now and then, still takes hold. So next time you feel the urge to dance for no reason, just ask yourself, is it joy? Or is something older, stranger, dancing through you.